All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He's Steve Purciello, a longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, and athletic director. And this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 24 minutes of random NBA thoughts online anywhere. Now, last week, we paused the Shot Clock Pod to talk San Antonio Spurs basketball with the Spurs Bros, which was a great conversation. Today, the Shot Clock is back. And we're going to take a look at the rest of the teams. What I mean by that is, Steve, in earlier Shot Clock Pod shows, we discussed the most interesting teams in the East and the most interesting teams in the West. So now we're going to start to go over the rest of them. So we got all of your NBA teams covered for the start of the 2025-26 NBA season. Steve, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's start the clock, and we're off. All right. Before we get to the teams, and I'm glad that you brought this up because I think it's fascinating, we're going to talk about a rule change that's coming into the league this year, and it's an interesting one. They call it the Heave rule. So if a shot is taken that starts in your own backcourt with only 3 seconds left in the first, second, or third quarter of the game, that shot will not count against the stats of the player that took it. I love seeing those shots. I think they're fun. They go in a lot of the times. These guys are so talented, but players don't like to take them. This rule is in effect to address it. What does that say about the NBA players?
Well, first of all, I think our fans, and they don't quite understand that these players are playing for their living.
Yeah.
So players become reluctant to shoot the ball from a long distance because it's going to affect their percentage, and that's going to affect the negotiations. Naturally, it becomes a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I didn't like that guys would just eat the ball or pretend to shoot after the buzzer went off and made something out of it. It is a fun thing because when somebody shoots the ball, the percentage isn't good. So if it goes in, people love that. Or even if it's close, you can feel the crowd go. But people need to sit and understand, like you and I who work, or I used to anyway, but people who work, this is their living. Their next negotiation will be affected by it. Now, we all want to believe that every player wants to win. Oh, that's the most, I'm sure they do. But when you understand priorities, if the guy's making only 2 million, and we say only, but it's a nice piece of change, but other guys making more, if their percentages go up, and I'm going to use Beasley as the perfect example, because his shooting he's got some problems this year, but has made him some money because he's an outstanding shooter. And if you're so you want to keep your percentage as high as possible because that might make you money. And don't forget, for a lot of the guys, not at the top of the scale, meaning the Beasleys of the world, in the NBA, if you are a top player, you're going to get 35% of the overall team cap. So now if you have two good, and you have a second player who's a 25 or 30%er, that means that's 65% of your money, or 60 or 70%, whatever. 35% is going to be split up among 12 players. So now do the math. I look at it, and that's 3 million average, a little more, a little less. It's not a lot of money involved. And naturally, these guys have a talent. And anybody else, they do amass enough money that they don't have to go to work when they're done. And they're talented. So you have to understand that is the most important thing for the player. Naturally, they do want to win titles. They do want to be famous for all that stuff. But the first thing is to make sure you make enough in the limited time you have. What's the average NBA player play? 6 years, 5 years? So you've got to bring some money in over that time.
Yeah. I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole, excuse me, with your okay here, and it might impact our shot clock today. But there's no easy fix, obviously, and this is, I'm gonna make a ludicrous statement, okay? I'm gonna call that out right now.
You do that.
I do too. This is top-notch ludicrous. What do you think would happen in the NBA if the salary cap was $250,000 per year? A good salary. Nobody would deny that. That is a very good salary. Okay. $250, that's your top. Everybody gets it. Bench player, star player, $250. Everybody makes $250,000 a year, $250,000 a year to play basketball. The rest of the money just goes to nonprofits, right? That's just theoretically, hypothetically. I told you it was ludicrous, all right? How many of today's current NBA players do you think stay in the NBA? Because all of a sudden, money isn't an issue. Everybody makes the same, right? How many NBA players stay, or is the league decimated?
No, people would play because that's for most people, that's a pretty good salary.
Yeah.
They would play. The one good thing would be the ticket prices would go way down. So that would be good. And the WNBA pretty much has that, not that same,
Yeah.
but they do that. Guys would still play. Like I said, 250,000 is a good salary for a year. It's up there near what you make. So in that way, that would be fine. But the player would go into the game knowing if I make enough, maybe I can invest in and live a life. Or B, I'm going to be working when I'm done. It might
Yeah.
be bigger emphasis on education and things like that.
Yeah.
Really, right now, let's face it, guy goes top high school player, plays 1 year in college, Cooper Flag, and he's out and he's
Yeah.
making money. So
Yeah.
that might change a little bit. Who knows? And with the NIL, they're going to make a heck of a lot more than
Staying
200
in college.
in college.
That's funny.
There's a lot
Interesting.
of things. You went down a rabbit hole, and there's a lot of different things that come up.
Oh yeah, there's lots of different ways to take it. Yeah, you know what? I might write some on that. That's an interesting take that obviously will never fly, but yeah, I think it's interesting. All right, let's pause that because yeah, we could go down all of the different little nooks and crannies that I just opened up, but we don't want to do that. Let's talk about the rest of the NBA. As I said before, you discussed the interesting teams in the East and the West. Great conversation. Make sure to read those or or listen to those shows. But today we're going to talk about the rest of the teams. We'll start with the New York Knicks. This is a team that hasn't won it all in a very long time. They live in the entertainment capital. No, I think LA is the entertainment capital of the world, allegedly, supposedly. But they live in, that's one of the most popular cities to live in. There's a lot of pressure, I guess is what I'm trying to get at with the New York Knicks. And the Knicks are a good team, but they've never been good enough. Okay. Are they good enough in 2025, 26?
I guess the best way to answer that is if, and I don't think so at Oklahoma, but again, injuries and things like that. But they are good enough to win it in a down year in the NBA, meaning there's no
Yeah.
tremendously talented team. I think, and what I wrote about was the signing of Malcolm Brogdon.
Right.
People have to remember 2 years ago, he was the sixth man of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He's constantly injured. But if he stays healthy, he's played 53 games in the last 2 years, which is 26 a year, which isn't much. But if he stays healthy, they've got a player that they might use down the stretch of games. Think about that. At the end of a game, he can finish a game and he can play. He can score. He used to be a defensive, decent player. Now his legs, he's got a lot of problems with his legs and so on.
Yeah.
But if he stays, and sometimes, again, I'll use 1986 with Boston. They've got Bill Walton, who's always hurt, and he was healthy. I think he missed one game that year. Things like that can happen. And if Brogdon, they have a talent there that if he's healthy, and that's the biggest question, he signed a contract that's not guaranteed, and he's in competition for that 14th spot, Landry Shamet and Garrison Matthews. And by the way, Garrison Matthews can shoot, and he's a tough player. But I think they're all three are fighting for that one spot. My sense is if Brogdon's healthy, he'll make it. The other thing is the Knicks could trade somebody and then keep two of those players because they'll be into the second apron if they keep two of them. So there's a lot of variables here. And the other thing is, can Brogdon stay healthy? So it's a really interesting move because he's a good player.
Yeah. It's always good for the NBA when there's a good team in New York. And there's been a good team for a while. But obviously, it's going to be great for New York if they can get over the hump. And yeah, I love the call out to Bill Walton. Bill Walton changed that Celtics team. And in my estimation, is a great segue because we're going to talk about the Celtics next. That 1986 Celtics team is probably one of the best core teams in the history of NBA. They were phenomenal. Let's talk about the Celtics.
That was Bird at his best. That was one of the best.
Bird at his best.
Yeah.
undeniable, and just enough of Bill Walton to be impactful. I mean, that team was a fun team to watch. But these Celtics, 2025-26 Celtics, I don't think any team is going to look any more different from last season to this season than the Boston Celtics. And it's unfortunate, right? Because it starts with Tatum, and then you listed them, man. Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, Luke Cornett. This team is altogether different, and it's not by choice, right? Sometimes teams blow up. This Celtics team, it was an unfortunate injury. That was the first domino, and then everything else happened. So what do you make of the Celtics this season? What can we expect?
I think they're a playing team. I know the Eastern Conference is weak, but you lost an all NBA player to start. And hopefully there's word that he's ahead of schedule and maybe he can be back. But I doubt it. But the point being, they lost him. They also lost whatever bigs that were decent. Now they're down to their number 3 center, Kada, who's played well this summer in the
Yeah.
games. But you got to hope he can play. Now, they did sign Boucher from Toronto, who can play a little bit, but he's limited. Luke Garza, who's been a bench man from Minnesota, can score. Can't do much else, but he can score. And Josh Minot. So they've got a few guys, but they're weak. They're weak at the big spots. In a year, when Tatum is healthy again, they might be able to go out and fix that. They do have Derek White. They do have Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown should really have a great year because the ball's going to be in his hands. They do have Peyton Pritchard, who is getting better every year. And who knows, he could be really good. And finally, with those three, and Anthony Simmons, who can score, they have some talent. They're not there, but they don't have the big people that can bring them home. And until they get that, I don't see them competing with any of the big boys in the league. It's just not enough big. And it's just the way it shook out when Brad Stevens had to go in and trade these guys. He had to get under that second apron.
Yeah.
So it just worked out that he didn't get any big people back that were decent. So it's a problem.
Yeah, a couple of quick shout outs there because that was a great recap of the Celtics. First, Nick Land, a big friend rather, of our show, did a great overview of Kada and his offseason improvement. So we'll see if we can link that as well. Yeah. And Steve and I talked a lot about the second apron. We'll make sure to link that as well. So lots of good conversations based on off of what you just said. Let's move now to the Heat. And I love the way you worded this here. The Heat as a franchise are not prone to throw away seasons. Some franchises are. Here in LA, there was a franchise, not the Lakers, that threw away multiple seasons by design. That was what the owner wanted to do at the time. Dark days. That's not what the Miami Heat do. Is that what the Miami Heat are going to do this season?
First of all, it's good that you got the Lakers involved early, but Miami's interesting. They did get Dwight Powell, who can score, and he can play a bit. So that's going to help them. And they've got Bam, and a lot of it rides on Khalil Ware. If he's healthy and can play well and is improved, he's got to get bigger and stronger. But if he's improved, the Heat are going to be much better because then it allows Bam to be a 4-man and not the 5, and it changes the whole thing. And Bam can defend against anybody.
Yeah.
But they did lose Duncan Robinson, who's a good shooter. They lose Haywood Highsmith, who's a nice player. They lost those two, and Hero's hurt. Now, they're a playing team as they are right there. If Hero comes back and Powell, they might be a tad better. I don't quite see it. I just don't see it, and I'm surprised. Now, Miami is thinking about next year. Free agents out there, and they get under the cap. There's a bunch of money. Powell's salary, Rozier, who hasn't given him a thing, his salary, and there's some other money that they will be coming off, and they will be able to go out and sign somebody that's a big player. It's surprising that the Heat would do this, but I think right now that might be the smartest way to go. Now, they're going to try to win. They always try to win.
Yeah.
But I just don't see there's not enough talent to really win.
Yeah, tough times in Miami, to be sure. Speaking of tough times, how's that for a segue? Let's talk about the process in Philadelphia, right? When Embiid showed up and started talking about the process, I thought That's super mature, right? That makes so much sense. To be patient. I think we're near the tail end of the process in Philadelphia, the Embiid process in Philadelphia. What do you think?
If he's healthy, they're dangerous.
Really? Okay.
Um, they're dangerous. And if he's healthy, I obviously, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say he's going to play 40 games.
Yeah.
But if he's healthy, they're dangerous. They've got some outstanding guards. They didn't sign Quentin Grimes yet, and he's one more. But they do have Maxey. They do have McCain, who got hurt last year. He's on his
Right.
rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And PJ Edgecombe, who's looked good in the summer and can play. He was one of the best guy on the court when he played. So with that, it's not a bad situation. If Joel Embiid is healthy, they also have another guy that they have to hope
Yeah.
lines the fountain of youth, and that's Mr. George.
Yeah.
If he can, now you've got a nice situation there. I don't know if it'll happen. George always misses a ton of games since he broke his leg 10 years ago, whatever it was. But
Yeah.
that's a nice, if you get everybody healthy, you've got a nice situation. And you never know. You never know. But again, it all comes down to one thing.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid. I don't picture him playing back-to-backs. I don't picture him playing four games in 6 nights or any of that stuff. But I do picture if they're lucky and they get 60, 65 games out of him, you got something going there.
Here's my take on the Sixers. Anytime you start an overview with if,
Yep.
that's the problem. And I think you rattled off multiple ifs there. And I get the sense that Paul George has reached the end of his career in that. And let me be real careful when I say this, okay? Phenomenal player. He's still very good. He's going to have nights where he's going to go off for 35 and play lockdown defense. He's good, but he can't consistently do that anymore. He just can't. He's at that end of his career, or that point in his career where he's just going to be good in spurts. So I don't see that if coming through. And like you said, I think best case scenario, unless something incredible happens, and it could, right? Yeah, you're looking at 40 games, 45 games maybe for Joel Embiid. I just don't think that's enough. Too many ifs in Philly.
Remember when you're talking about George, just remember what I always think about stars. Stars do it every night.
Every night,
Once
right?
you're not doing it every night, you're not a star anymore.
Tough.
You got to bring
Yeah.
it every night. Every night, the pressure's on you. You've got to go out and get your 20, 25, whatever it is you have to get. And the team needs that every night. Some nights you might get, and for Philadelphia, Kelly Oubre, he might go off and get a 20 or a 25. You can't count on that. You got to count on your stars to bring it home. They do have Maxey who's going to bring it. He'll
yeah.
get 25 every night. But
Yeah.
the rest of it, if Embiid's there, it changes the whole game.
Yeah. I see this as the start of a transition from the Embiid era to the Maxey era, the Edgecombe era, the Mr. McCain era. Just the start.
Let me add something though. If that's the case and they become a 500 team, it's going to be the start of an era another way. There'll be a new head coach and a new general manager.
Yeah.
So there's more to it than just that. And by the way, Embiid, I think he's got about 4 more years on his contract at ridiculous money.
Yeah.
They're going to have trouble staying under the cap or around the cap with his salary if he's not giving them anything.
Toughest job out there is GM, building and keeping a team together. Let's move to the West to talk about a team that's been struggling for a really long time, but they're starting to build some momentum now. I think they've gone all in with their coach, Chauncey Billups. And again, they brought in some players and they're looking to make some noise. And this is a team that's, I think, under some pressure after not being good for a while to be good this year. They've got to make some noise. They've got to be at least in the play-in. And that's obviously the Portland Trail Blazers. What do you make of the Blazers this year?
I think, first of all, they're ahead of management is ahead of where they should be. They're getting better.
Yeah.
We're not, if they finish in the top 6, I'll be the first most surprised person around because they're not that good yet. They could get there, but they're not there. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on people to overperform. They do have some talent. They've got some good young talent. Klingon, they're hoping gets better, but he's not a bad center for today's NBA. Ara is a very good defender. Denny Avia is a player. He's just a flat out player. He's
Right.
borderline star. And the other one, and probably the most important ingredient, is Scoot Henderson. He's up and down. And if he does become the player everybody thought he was, remember, he was second person chosen in the draft. If he does, they're in business. Then they could be decent. They've got a couple guys on the bench, not bench, but Jeremy Grant we all forget about because he's out a lot, but he can play. Robert Williams is always out. He can play. He almost was Defensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago. So there's some people. And they did bring in Drew. Holiday's getting a little bit, he's getting older.
Yeah.
But they brought him in for one reason. As they bought Dame. Dame is a local and they want him back. But both of them, I think, are there to work with Scoot Henderson because the organization understands how important his development is to where Portland tries to go. But I think they're getting ahead of themselves if they think they're a top 6 team.
Yeah. Yeah, undeniable. And I love you called it out. I think the feel-good news of the NBA offseason was Dame picking Portland. That was kind of shocking to me, but good to see. Hoping for some success in the Pacific Northwest. We're going to finish with a franchise that, man, has not had success in as long as I can remember ever. The New Orleans Pelicans. They've made some interesting offseason decisions. Obviously, everything revolves around Zion Williamson. It's a big year for them. I think at this point, man, if they don't have some success, if they don't make a move forward, everything's going to change. What do you see for the Pels?
You hit it. If Zion plays 70 games, they're a playoff team. They're a pretty good team. If he plays 70 games, everybody will be shocked. But that's the key. They have some talent. They've got Herb Jones. They've got Murphy, who can just play offensively. He is a player. They also have Jamal Murray coming back from an injury and the Achilles. If he can come back and play like he used to, that's one more good player. And for those people who didn't realize, they picked up a pretty good scorer during the offseason. A guy by the name of Poole from Washington. And if you remember a couple of years ago, Jordan was playing with Golden State, and he was instrumental in beating the Celtics in the final. He had some good games. So he can play too. I don't know if he likes playing with a team, but he can play. And so there's a lot of decent players. They also have the center, Messi, who I don't know if he's a good center, but he's got potential. And if he can play, there's some pieces.
Yeah.
But it all comes back to Zion. Without Zion, what do you got? So if he's healthy, which will be a surprise, then you're in business. The other thing, too, and it's funny, Willie Green's the coach. Willie Green's whole future is right around Zion. Because if they don't get off, Mr. Green will be out of a job.
Yeah.
And it's not really his fault because, again, you don't have the pieces you want. Last year he didn't, and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah, it's always the coach's fault. And I think the times that the coach deserved to be fired are probably in the lower percentage. Oftentimes it's just that they're the ones who take the blame for it.
Well, one other thing I wanted to add, and it's very interesting. They made a crazy trade to get Derek Queen, I believe, from Maryland.
Yeah.
The University of Maryland, to draft him higher. And they gave away a number 1 pick in a year. Now, if you read into that, what position does he play? And who's that playing that position on New Orleans?
Right.
He's playing Zion's spot.
Yeah.
Is there a thought that if this guy can play, and if they're right, we move Zion?
Sure.
And then you get to the next conversation, which is off a rabbit hole, as you would say. But the rabbit hole would be, who the heck is going to give up a lot for Zion?
I think a lot of teams would give up a lot for Zion.
You're gambling. And you know what?
That's all the NBA is, man. It's always a gamble.
You know,
give me a sure thing. I'll take it. There's no such thing.
Being a GM, you want to keep your job. If you take a risk like that and it doesn't work,
I get it.
You kind of lost your job. So there's more to it than just that. My sense would be it would be teams that are on the way down and trying anything to get themselves back up. Those are the teams that would be interested in it, or the teams that are weak just try to don't draw because Zion will bring people to the games if he's playing. You won't bring people to be sitting in the second row. But so that's what it would be. But I don't know if you're going to get a lot. I think if you check his salaries, I think he's going to be making over 40 million a year. And that's a lot of money for a guy who doesn't show up a lot.
No, I get it. But yeah, of course, I think if we're having that conversation, then things have worked out well in New Orleans. That's the takeaway. And I'm hoping things do. I'd like to see some success out in New Orleans. Now, you didn't hear it because it was a bit muted, but our shot clock did go off right at the tail end of the New Orleans conversation, which is cool. We don't usually beat the shot clock. We're in violation pretty much every week, but that's okay. It's what we do. But that's it. Our time is up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules NBA Random Thoughts article. We'll link it below to get more of his thoughts on the teams we discussed, the rule we discussed. Of course, go back, take a look at the second apron conversation, the East and West Coast team conversations, lots of good stuff there. We are actually, Steve, you don't know this, but we are nearing our 100th episode, which is pretty spectacular, I think. Most shows don't last that long. I don't know how we've made it this far. An LA guy and a Boston Celtics fan, but we're this close to 100 shows. I don't know exactly where we're at, but I think we're in the mid-90s somewhere. When we do our 100th, I'll make sure to let you know. I think that's pretty spectacular. Yeah, we can make a hat or something to commemorate the event. We'll do something. But make sure to join us next week for more random NBA thoughts. We will make sure to share everything on our socials. Add us there. Of course, please subscribe, comment. All that stuff means a lot. We look forward to talking to you all again next week. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks. Take care.